Hello friends, I'm Colonel Failure, and this is Transport Fever 2. Now, the latest update to the game introduced Vulcan as a graphics API that it was using to see if it was, see if it added a bit extra performance. So I thought, well, I've just played a performance sapping map. So I thought I'd give it a spin. Here's my spec. Now, I run at 4K because I've got screw loose. And then the rest of my spec is listed on the screen there, and it doesn't actually make that much of a difference how high the spec is. On your screen now, you've got OpenGL, which was the original way to play the game over on the left, and you've got the new Vulcan version over on the right. Now, until we get moving, the frame rates are largely all over the place, but once we sync up here, and I've done my best to sync the footage exactly between the two processing versions, you can see that Vulcan gets off into the lead no problem at all, hitting a 30 frame per second most of the time at the moment, whereas you're a couple of frames lower than that for OpenGL. Now, I've chosen this map, and if you haven't seen the video already, I do a full map tour that you can go and check out, and it's well worth you doing because the freight yard that it's got going on is a sight to behold. But it's not until we get out into the wild with more trains moving, particularly when we approach towns, that you'll see just how big an impact the new version has on the overall performance of the game. Now, personally, as much as I might like 60 frames a second to look at, it doesn't interfere with my ability to enjoy it to play a little bit lower than that. Frankly, anything over 24 frames a second and I'm quite cheerful. But then others are slightly more discerning. So I thought I'd do this head-to-head kind of showdown here in order to give you a look at the performance differences. There you go, you're taking a big hit there. Even Vulcan's dropping to the teens occasionally as we move through this segment, whereas OpenGL is down into the slideshow region. Magnificent. Yeah, it's all solidly good. Now, I run my RAM in a single channel version purely because of video editing. You get a little bit more performance out of video editing if you run in single rather than dual channel. So those of you running 16 gig would probably get similar performance that I do, even though I'm running 32 gig of RAM, and that's purely because I'm running single channel. 16 gig single channel or even dual channel will probably do you better, maybe, than I'm doing. Here we go into one of the heavier areas. Vulcan now dropping to 15. OpenGL is it's up and it's down. It's yeah, we're approaching kind of 10 frames a second. Now, if I were running at 1080p, we probably wouldn't be having this conversation. It would probably be running much smoother. But once you've gone to 4K, going backwards just makes you go, oh no, I can't live in the past. No, that's no good. I'd rather have the screen real estate available to me. And I've got a whacking great screen, and therefore I'd like to make the most of it, please. That would be super handy. Now, for those of you wondering how it is that I've managed to get exactly the same run through using two versions of the game here, it's fairly straightforward. Load up your save game and set off from exactly the same point at exactly the same time. And if you don't change anything, you'll get exactly the same results. It's one of the remarkable. Well, it's not even that remarkable. It's one of the things the game does is you will always get overtaken by a cross-country train at this point if you always set off at the same point without changing anything. Well, I don't know. I was quite pleased with it. I mean, your mileage is going to vary, obviously, but we're doing a your mileage is going to vary kind of test here. I experimented with having full screen on both sides of the divide, on having top and bottom, but I thought, actually, you want full detail. I'm sat in a cab, and therefore, you know, you're going to want full detail on what's going on. The reason for the cab view, rather than kind of a top-down view, is this is the approach that will tend to upset your frame rate more than anything else. You can get a far wider range of performance if you're viewing it in the top-down kind of plan view than you will do if you're playing it in cab view. Cab view is by far and away the most stringent way that you can play the game, the one that's going to affect your performance the most. There's not much between the two, has to be said, but overall Vulcan is holding up much better than OpenGL, so it's a welcome performance increase. There's really not much more to say about it than that. It is a welcome performance increase. I mean, you're getting an extra few frames a second, in places as much as 10 to 15 extra frames a second, and that means those maps of yours that you've stopped playing because it just ceases to operate in a way that you can get anything valuable from. Well, you can go back to them now, and they're playable for a little while longer. Now, in terms of improving your performance, there's the big one is the number of AI citizens, not trains. No, AI citizens on the map. The bigger your cities get, the more the performance will degrade, because all of those citizens and what they're up to, game agents, I suppose you might call them, everything that they're up to is being considered at all times. I imagine that passenger animation and road traffic animation and that kind of thing, you won't see it unless it's within range. You can quickly find a performance increase. Let's say you're skipping forward. You want to earn a bunch of cash in short order. Well, the best way to keep your frame rate up and therefore the game speed up is to zoom right in on a patch of ground that is as far away from civilization as you can get. Yeah, that's the ultimate way to get extra performance, is have nothing else viewable on screen, and therefore zoom right in as far as you can, and then crank the speed up. That will make a big difference. But keeping the number of cities that you're running, the number of towns that you're running to a minimum, that helps. You've just got to do it in a way that means you're not going to sacrifice gameplay for performance. That's a thing you don't want. But obviously, you can figure out what setting there is going to be the best for you. Similarly, if you're a detail frenzier, like our friend John here, then don't go mad on trees. Trees do use up, one or two, it's not going to hurt you. But if you're placing thousands upon thousands of them, and the reason for highlighting trees is it's very easy to just go absolutely crazy with trees. They will affect your performance. The trees do animate to a degree, and when you're close in, that's extra muscle that you're going to need in order to make that work. So make your trees count, I think is the best thing to say there. Is don't go overboard, and just use as many trees as you feel you absolutely have to. Obviously, sticking fence all the way down the side of the track here adds a massive amount when it comes to authenticity of the line and track detail and all of that kind of business. But you will take a performance hit. It doesn't come for free, and these things add up. If you want to get the best frame rate out of your game, then the fewer extensive bits of detailing that you can put in there, the better you'll do. If you're focusing on 5 or 6 cities only, well, maybe you don't need the other cities. Maybe you can do away with not having untouched villages. Certainly early on in the game, you're better off only dealing with a few cities at a time in order to get them to grow. Yeah, no, this is just what I've learned by bringing games to a standstill over a long period of time. The other thing that will help is don't use supersized cities. Don't go for extra large and massive cities every single time. Keep some of them on a small scale. If you're using the editor to place them in the first place, keep some of them on a small scale. You will you'll benefit from it because they will grow organically. And if you're not getting any benefit from that, why do it? Anyway, this is going to bring us up to the end of this brief playthrough to show the difference between the two versions. Check your settings. If you're still running under OpenGL, have a spin over on Vulcan and see what you get out of it. You might be pleasantly surprised. I've been Colonel Failure. I cover Transport Fever quite a bit. If you like this kind of thing, subscribe to the channel. If you don't, I question why you're here in the first place. Thanks very much for watching. Cheerio.